History is written by the victors. But what about the stories they don't want you to hear? The untold horrors, the hidden conspiracies, the forgotten atrocities that lurk beneath the surface of our past. This is not the history they teach in school. This is the dark side of history, where truth is stranger than fiction, and reality is more terrifying than nightmares, from ruthless rulers to chilling unsolved mysteries. From the depths of ancient bloodshed to the secret plots that shaped our world. Welcome to a journey through history's darkest chapters. This is Dark Diaries. Tonight, on Season 1 of Dark Diaries, we start our journey into the darkest corners of history. In this episode, we uncover the truth behind one of history's most feared figures, a ruler whose name became legend, whose cruelty struck terror into his enemies, and whose legacy gave birth to the world's most infamous monster. This is the story of Vlad the Impaler, the real Dracula, a name that would one day strike fear into the world. But the real Dracula was no supernatural vampire. He was something far more terrifying, a man of flesh and blood, a ruler whose cruelty became legend. But was he truly a monster, or was history written by his enemies? Tonight, we separate fact from fiction and uncover the bloody legacy of Vlad the Impaler. To understand Vlad the Impaler, we must first understand the world he was born into. The 15th century was an age of empires, of conquest, and of brutal warfare. And at the center of it all stood the Ottoman Empire, a rising superpower that threatened to consume Europe. Founded in 1299, the Ottoman Empire grew from a small Anatolian state into one of the most feared empires in history. Under the rule of Sultan Mehmed II, known as Mehmed the Conqueror, the Ottomans launched an unstoppable military campaign. Their armies, vast and disciplined, were backed by elite janissaries, highly trained soldiers taken as children from Christian lands and raised as warriors of Islam. By 1453, Mehmed II had achieved the impossible, the fall of Constantinople. The once mighty Byzantine Empire crumbled, and the Ottomans now turned their sights on Eastern Europe. And standing in their way was a small but defiant kingdom, Wallachia. We will cover the rise and fall of Constantinople in future episodes, so be sure to subscribe. Returning to this episode, Wallachia was Vlad's homeland, a land of war, of shifting alliances, and of rulers who lived and died by the sword. Vlad III was born in 1431 into the noble house of Dracula. His father, Vlad II, was a ruler of Wallachia and a member of the Order of the Dragon, a secretive, chivalric order sworn to defend Christendom from the Ottoman advance. It was from this order that young Vlad inherited his infamous name, Dracula, meaning son of the dragon. But that name would later take on a far darker meaning. At the age of 13, Vlad III and his younger brother Radu were taken as political hostages by the Ottoman Empire. Their father, Vlad II Dracula, had sworn loyalty to the Ottomans in exchange for military support. But as a guarantee of his loyalty, the Sultan took his two sons as prisoners. This was a common practice, ensuring that vassal rulers would not betray the empire. Unlike his brother Radu, who was treated well and later converted to Islam, Vlad grew to despise the Ottomans. He resented their rule over his homeland and saw their power as a threat to Wallachian independence. But he was no fool. He studied their military strategies, their methods of governance, and their weaknesses. He would one day use this knowledge against them. Then in 1447, everything changed. Back in Wallachia, Vlad's father, Vlad II Dracula, was betrayed and assassinated by local nobles who opposed his rule. With his family dead, the Ottomans saw an opportunity. They released Vlad, now 17 years old, with the hope that he would rule Wallachia as an obedient vassal to the Sultan. With Ottoman backing, Vlad returned to Wallachia in 1448, but his rule was short-lived. His father's enemies still held power, and rival factions drove him out within months. Without allies, Vlad fled to Moldavia, where he sought protection from his relatives. But he would not be gone for long. After years of exile, Vlad found a new ally, Hungary's king Matthias Corvinus. Corvinus saw an opportunity and helped Vlad raise an army. And in 1456, Vlad marched back into Wallachia, this time ready for war. Though he initially ruled with the support of the Ottoman Empire, he soon turned against them, reclaiming his homeland and waging war against the empire that had once held him captive. Vlad returned to Wallachia, which was a land of treachery, and to rule it, one needed fear. Vlad's most infamous method of execution was impalement, a horrific punishment where victims were skewered alive on massive wooden stakes. The spikes were placed so high that invading armies could see them from miles away. Vlad the Impaler did not rule in peace. His reign was defined by bloodshed, betrayal, and relentless war. The most infamous battle of Vlad's reign was the night attack of 1462. Sultan Mehmed II, the same conqueror who took Constantinople, marched into Wallachia with over 100,000 men, one of the largest armies of its time. Outnumbered and outmatched, Vlad devised a different strategy: terror. On the night of June 17th, Vlad led a surprise raid with a few thousand men, slicing through the Ottoman encampment like a ghostly wraith. Their target? The Sultan himself. But the plan failed, and Vlad retreated into the mountains, leaving behind only horror. Although he did not kill the Sultan, Vlad knew how to strike fear into his enemy's heart. As Mehmed II advanced toward the capital of Targovishte, he encountered a nightmare: a vast field of impaled corpses stretching for miles. Over 20,000 bodies rotted on wooden stakes, their hollow eyes staring into oblivion. Mehmed, horrified, did something unthinkable. He turned back. The Sultan of the Ottomans refused to face a man capable of such inhuman cruelty. Vlad did not rely on sheer numbers. He used psychological warfare, ambushes, and hit-and-run tactics to weaken his enemies. He burned his own villages to starve the Ottoman army, poisoned wells, and even released people infected with the plague into enemy camps. Some called him a monster, others called him a genius. But how did Vlad the Impaler become Dracula, the immortal vampire? Some medieval pamphlets claim that Vlad dined among the impaled and dipped his bread in the blood of his enemies. But were these stories true, or were they propaganda designed by his enemies to paint him as a monster? Bram Stoker, an Irish writer, had never set foot in Transylvania, but he had read tales of Vlad the Impaler, of a ruler so cruel that he was said to drink the blood of his enemies. It was the perfect inspiration for a monster that would haunt the world forever: Count Dracula. But how much of Dracula was really Vlad? Stoker's novel never explicitly mentions Vlad the Impaler, but the parallels were undeniable: the bloodlust, the dark castle, the fearsome presence. Over time, history blurred with fiction, and Vlad became the world's most famous vampire. Today, Dracula's name is known worldwide. But in Romania, Vlad is not seen as a monster. He is a national hero, the man who defended his homeland from invaders. So, was Vlad the Impaler a sadistic tyrant, a military genius, a necessary evil? Or perhaps a bit of all three? One thing is certain: Vlad may not have been a vampire, but his legend will never die. Now it's your turn. Do you think Vlad the Impaler was a hero or a villain? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love dark history, don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling tales from the past. Join us next week as we dive deeper into the dark side of history with our next episode, where we'll uncover the tyrants worse than Hitler, exploring the overlooked yet equally terrifying dictators whose reigns of terror left indelible marks on the world.